I know that you're familiar with grains like wheat, corn, rice, and maybe even barley and quinoa. But what about teff? Teff is from Ethiopia, and though it is the world's smallest grain, it packs a prodigious punch. By the end of this video, you're going to know all about teff, how quick and easy it is to cook, and why this tiny but terrific grain deserves a spot in your kitchen. Let's get cooking. Hello and welcome to I Want to Cook. My name is Chef Matt, and this channel is all about helping you be a better cook no matter your skill level. And yes, today we are talking about teff, and I am so excited to show you how to cook this. Like I was saying, teff really flies under the radar. Teff is from Ethiopia, and it is such an important grain there. It is now grown in other parts of the world, including here in America. In fact, there's a producer in Idaho that's making it, but teff and Ethiopia go hand in hand. Now, as I was saying, teff is small, like really small. I mean, this stuff is, it's almost like, it's like a grain of sand. It is so small. And to give you an idea of just how small it is, I'm gonna try to put this under a magnifying glass and just kind of show you this here. I mean, it is just so small. Now for another perspective, here is a grain of teff and a needle. You can see just how small this is. Now, like other grains, there are various kinds of teff. There is ivory teff, there is brown teff, and each has kind of a distinctly different flavor. As far as where to buy this stuff, well, honestly, it might just be easiest to buy it online. I was able to find these on Amazon, but you also might be able to find it in stores. I went to a few different stores looking for teff. Some I struck out on, some I found it. And in one of the stores, it was actually in the aisle with spices, but in others, it was in the aisle with like other baking goods and other types of like specialty grains. Teff doesn't cost all that much. I think these were like $7 or $8 a bag. So, they're obviously going to be more than something like oats or rice, but they're not like exorbitantly expensive. Now, another thing about teff is that it is a nutritional powerhouse. It is really rich in minerals like iron, and it is gluten-free and vegan. So if you are a vegan and you're trying to find a good plant-based source for iron, this is going to be a really good option for you. But it is just filled with nutrients. It's really, really good for you. And the stuff is super versatile. I mean, you can make this stuff sweet or savory. So that means, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You can find an application where teff will be just great. Now, before I show you actually how to cook teff, let me kind of explain it. Because it's really easy. Probably the easiest and most popular way of making teff is just by simmering it just as you would with like rice or oats when you make oatmeal. But that's not the only way that you can cook teff. I mean, it can be used in baked goods. You can actually make a flour with it if you want to make bread, like the Ethiopian injera bread that's really popular. But get this, it's so versatile that it's actually used to make beer, and check this out, in building material. Yes, actually using this in like walls and such to help reinforce buildings. We're not going to be doing that here. We're just going to be cooking this stuff. So let me show you probably the easiest way to cook teff. Okay, to make this basic teff recipe, we are going to measure out 1.5 cups of water, and we are going to bring that to a boil in a 2-quart saucepan. Now we're going to measure 1 cup of teff. Now I should note that on the instructions of one of these packages, it does say to rinse teff, but here's the deal. Teff is so small that it might just fall through a colander unless you have a really, really fine sieve. So personally, I'm okay not rinsing teff, but if you really want to, I would use something like cheesecloth that isn't going to allow those grains to fall through. Okay, our water is boiling, so let's take off the lid here. Now I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and this is just going to help bring out that flavor just a little bit more. And then we are just going to pour in the teff, just like this. 1 cup of teff, and we're going to give it a good stir. Now all we have to do is reduce the heat. I'm going to turn it to about low to medium low, put a lid on, and let it cook for about 8 to 10 minutes. I found that about 9 minutes works really well for this pan, but you just want to cook it until the water is absorbed, and that's all you have to do. So let's let this cook for about, let's say 8 to 10 minutes, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Now you might be wondering, could you use something like a stock for this, like chicken stock, if you were making a savory type of dish? And absolutely you could. You could use chicken stock, beef stock, vegetable stock, whatever you wanted for this, if you wanted more of a savory flavor, just like you would with rice. But for this application, we're just gonna go for a really neutral flavor, so I'm just using water. Okay, time's up. Let me show you what this looks like. So we are just gonna lift the lid here nice and easy. And look at this Teff. It kind of looks like wet sand. Now what you're gonna wanna do is just kind of fluff it here, just like you would with rice. We're just gonna kind of fluff this with a fork. And boy, do you see all these little tiny grains? All that liquid has been absorbed. That's exactly what you want. Now, we're not going to dive into this just yet. Again, very similar to rice. We are going to put the lid back on. We're going to wait for about another 10 minutes, and we're just going to kind of let this settle, let all the rest of that moisture get absorbed, and then we can dive in, and I'll finally tell you what this stuff tastes like. Okay, let's dig into this Teff, see how we did. Boy, this is just looking so hot and steamy. All right, we'll scoop this out. Now let me show you this. This, as you can see, is just beautiful. All those little grains, you know, they're kind of separate but together. And again, I just want to describe this as kind of like, I don't know, wet sand, or maybe like quinoa if you've ever made that. Okay, what does Teff taste like? Well, again, this is a very neutral way that we made it. It's very plain, but so it's earthy. It's got just like a little bit of crunch, but it's soft. And I think the flavor that it most resembles is like wheat bran. If you've ever had like wheat bran cereal, this tastes very much like that. It's just like super hearty. But the beautiful thing about this is that, you know, it is just like a culinary canvas. You can make this sweet, you can make this savory, you can make this a lot wetter. So like, for example, if you want to make more of like a porridge, you would use twice the amount of water. So 3 cups of water, but 1 cup of Teff. I made this morning that way, and it was great. I made it kind of like a hot cereal. I put date nut syrup and walnuts on it, and it was absolutely delicious. So if you want this to be wetter, you would just add a little bit more liquid, and you would have more of a like porridge type consistency. This is a really good way of serving it, just kind of like as a side dish, kind of like what you would do with couscous or quinoa. You can just kind of eat it with a fork. But boy, it is so different. And like, I love this food because it just like kind of makes you feel good eating it. I mean, it is so good and good for you. So there you go. That is the down low on Teff. I really hope you try this, especially if you're gluten-free like me, or again, maybe if you're a vegan and you're just kind of looking for something different, alternative grains. And heck, even if you're like a meat eater, I think you're really gonna like this because it just is so hearty and so delicious. Hey, as always, thank you for checking out the channel. Thank you for subscribing. If you are new, welcome. Welcome to the channel. I am so happy that you are here. Until next time, I hope you want to cook.